Today is Tuesday, January 6th. I just got up in the morning. It's approaching 6 a.m. in the morning. This is the time I usually like to get up. In these videos, I'm talking about health, wealth, and prosperity. How to lead a healthy, wealthy, and prosperous life. And so I'm trying to practice what I'm preaching here. And so to lead, you have to lead by example. And so this is what I call my aftercare period. After I got out of the hospital, it's about the aftercare you receive is determines your recovery, and length and periods of recovery depends on the quality and kind of aftercare that you get. Just like when you go to a doctor, you get an operation. Like I got a kidney stone removed, a large kidney stone removed that was lodged in my bladder. The quality of the operation went very well. I had very little to no pain or after effects of the operation, but I needed aftercare, which means that the risk of the operation was I would get blood clots. Any operation, I guess, you get blood clots, and blood clots can damage your heart. And people have blood clots sometimes and kidney stones. You don't know it. I never felt the kidney stone that I had a kidney stone. I once had a kidney stone that hurt, and I felt the kidney stone and I had it, and it simply passed through my urine, and I was fine. So when I first had a kidney stone, I went to the doctor to treat it. But this time when I had a kidney stone, it just kept growing and growing and growing, and I had no symptoms of pain. But it was obstructing and blocking my urinary tract, and that's how I got kidney damage and heart damage, that according to the original prognosis. Now, prognosis is just a theory. Prognosis is not a death sentence. It's simply a place to start to be able to treat and diagnose symptoms. And so symptoms, whatever your symptoms are, can have multiple causes, or it can have different causes. Like if you feel dizzy, it's not necessarily indicative of a heart arrhythmia, but that could be if you have a heart ailment and your heart kind of beats erratically. One of the symptoms of that could be dizziness. But dizziness could be caused by any number of things, like spinning yourself around like a top. If you do that enough, you'll get dizzy, right? So you have to watch out yourself and how you move, what you practice, what you eat, and how you live in general. So here's the point. Aftercare, to me, it's not, you have to stop letting people always want to help, but they kind of want to fix you. And you don't need anybody to fix you, okay? You don't need me to fix you, all right? What you need is someone like me to assist you, okay? So you need people that will assist you, in other words, help you to help yourself. And so you have to have the game plan. You have to have the vision of knowing where you're going. And with vision, then you'll see how to get there and how to get where you want to go. You see, that's why I emphasize vision, why vision is so important, So the first thing I do is I start in the morning. I start slow and easy. Not in a hurry. Don't be too much in a hurry to get anything done. That's why I get up extra early, so I can start my day, but slowly. Not trying to get active too fast, because you just need to build your strength. And you have to practice, build your strength is something you have to build over the course of a day, weeks, and months. And if you don't utilize your energy with your efforts, it'll start to break down your strength, energy, and then your efforts will become more futile. So I got a bunch of deliveries yesterday, and this is when I start my work day here. is to open these packages. I don't have a dumpster right now, something to container to put all my trash, so I just throw it there in the corner, as you can see. That lamp was broken when I came home last night. Somebody yanked it, the cord from the wall, and tore the cord from the wall, so now I either have to fix that or throw it away. It doesn't matter how it happened. It did happen while I was not here, I think, or maybe I did it. I just yanked the cable from the wall, but don't yank the cables from the wall. It can tear the cable, and then it'll destroy your lamp. And this was a pretty cool lamp, as you see that right there, that big tall lamp with the white lampshade. But it's also pretty beat up. Like this light here is much better, much more economic with the use of electricity. It's a lot better light. It's more like a stage light, a spotlight, something that's not too bright and kind of highlights your face and doesn't just take out all the shadows in your face and makes you look like a ghost or a corpse. So I'm starting to think about, vid presentation, how to present videos to hear them making. But it's one step at a time, okay? So they'll do a little at a time. When you try to do too much at a time, you get ahead of yourself, then you end up having to make up for time, for all the time you wasted, when you really need to just do a little at a time, and that's how you become more efficient and effective with your time. So, for example, my concern about practice when I'm teaching is I want people to practice, but I want them to practice a little at a time. Don't try to practice too much, because when you try to practice, it's like you're trying to make up for lost time, and you never get anything done that way. So I used to recommend to my clients or students, practice 10, 15 minutes a day, 2 or 3 times a day. That's all the practice you need at the start. The important thing about practice is consistency. And so consistent practice is not accomplished by just spending all hours of the day trying to practice 5 hours a day or whatever. If you practice a lot, you got to build up to that. And then you have to plan what your time when you practice, so that you practice more effective and more efficiently with your time. So that's what I have to start now by doing, but by example. I couldn't really teach this in a lesson, solely in a lesson by lesson basis. That's why I call myself a consultant lessons or consultant teacher, because I really want to consult you about how you can spend your time and use it better, more effectively, to create health, wealth, and prosperity for your life. And so in some of the previous videos I've talked about, when I was in the hospital, I discussed health, that health is really self-care. That's ultimately what health is. Physician, heal yourself. That's the Hippocratic oath, is that the doctor is only as good as they are themselves, self-healed. So if you're sick, you can't help the others who are sick. You have to learn how to, let's say, practice yourself. And so that's why it's called medical practice. You're only as good as you practice. If you're a doctor, you're only as good as you practice. If you're a musician, you're only as good as you practice. If you're a teacher or private lessons teacher or consultant like me, you're only as effective with your clients and others as you practice these things and do these things for yourself. So practice is the way to Carnegie Hall, okay? But it's not how much time you spend, and it's not how much practice. It's using your time effectively. So maybe you practice, but you practice that's no more than 10, 15 minutes at a time, 2, 3 times a day. That's the way to start. That's the way to practice. 3 times a day, 10, 15 minutes at a time, or a few minutes at a time, and then practice consistently, and then start building planning or arranging your time, more time around your practice. Okay? Now, I can't go into much depth in this other than just share you my aftercare, share with you my life, try to show you how I practice my life. Like when you get up, you gotta blow your nose, even if you don't have any congestion or whatever. You can't just start the day, because when you get ill, it's usually germs that you get into your nose because you're touching your face and things like that. So yesterday I had a pretty scratchy throat. I was worried that I'd get up and have a sore throat or something like that. Sometimes you wake up, your throat hurts because you've been mouth breathing in your sleep. And when you mouth breathe, that dries out your throat. It's as simple as that. See? So you have to learn how to breathe from your diaphragm or through your nose. Now it takes longer to get that breath. But it doesn't dry out your throat. And when your throat dries out, it makes gets you to have to blow your nose when you wake up. So I could think that I'm getting sick, or I could think that I'm just not taking enough self-care, right? Yogis know this. They always are cleaning out their noses because they know that when you touch your nose, we accumulate germs in our oral cavities and nasal cavities, and that's where disease starts. It's common sense, but that's why you have to wash your mouth, blow your nose, brush your teeth. These activities are meant to help you for self-care, for health care purposes. So instead of thinking of these things as a chore, see, like I shaved last night, but the problem, there's always some problem. There's always going to be some issue. But then if you try to look outside to other people to fix things for you, then you're thinking wrong. If you get a music teacher, or a voice consultant, or a vocal coach, or a music teacher like me, and you want me to fix things for you, well, I can assist you, is what I can do. I can assist how you spend your time with your practice, show you ways you could practice more efficiently, more effectively, and find better uses of your time. That's what I can do. And but then you got to do it. See, you got to do it. What I like about consulting is I don't have to have fixed schedules with people. I can work are much more flexible. I can do a phone lesson, video lessons. We can do lessons. The length of lessons depends on, could be shorter or longer lessons. It doesn't have to be at set times or set number of hours each lesson. So it could do a phone lesson, maybe 10 minutes, 5 minutes. But we need to, the Bible has a quote, says, redeem the time, means we need to keep track of the time and track of the number of hours that we're spending on each lesson, so that if you buy 3 lessons at $60 a lesson, $60 an hour, then that's 3 hours of my time. But do we really need to meet and do a full lesson and each time do 3 lessons? Or couldn't it be 6 lessons at 30 minutes a lesson, or 12 lessons at 15 minutes a call? So if we talk on the phone, we could do these 15-minute mini lessons, and do 12 lessons would be equal to $160. It would be equal to my lesson fees, you see. So the problem is, if you set certain standards, but they're too high because the people can't really practice the lessons that you're giving them, because they're trying to do too much at one time, usually is the problem. And if you're the teacher, you're trying to do too much at one time, because you don't want to waste your time. If you're giving person assistance, well, then you want to see them apply how they applying your suggestions. You see, you have to feel at ease, but to monitor people is not the same as to judge them, tell them what to do. They have to find out what they need and then do it. And then with your assistance, then you can explore and find better ways to practice and to apply themselves. Now, this is like the first video I'm trying to introduce. I'm thinking about how to introduce my program. I haven't quite worked out I'm working right now on my presentation, which is just how you need to, how to work with me if you're interested or would like to come and take some lessons. Constantly have something to drink beside me, some water, juice, something. But I just drink a little at a time because through the course of the day, like right now, I'm talking on a video and it's important that I stay hydrated. If I go on for an hour and I don't take a drink of water, that dries out my throat and then I'm back at square one. Now, this is part of my aftercare, is to have something to drink, but don't drink a lot of water all at once, because your body just has to assimilate the foods and things you eat, and you got to give your body time to assimilate, and that's how you heal. Your body heals as it's able to function more optimally or efficiently. But then that's the way you feed yourself and how you nurture your body is part of the process, okay? Self-love is self-care. And so you need to practice self-care. And the more you care for yourself, then the more careful you are, and the more you care about your health, yourself, the more you're able to give the needed care for other people as well. So I started lessons with some of my former students. I even had some current students, even while I was in the hospital. Teaching online, teaching on the phone, teaching every way I can. And teaching is just giving as much as I can, but as much as I'm able to give at my lessons. So I started to notice a lot of improvement in my teaching practice, just how I was able to practice my lesson schedules and appointments with people, and how my students started to find the time to practice and do the things they needed to do so they could move on to accomplish the great things that they want. But it's a slow process at first, but I believe slow is fast and fast is slow. If you trust the process, that's how you achieve. Trust the process, that's an expression. You have to start with an end goal, but then trust the process. In other words, it's not just thinking hard on what you want to accomplish. You have to do a little at a time and then build momentum up to where you can spend the time you need, but still not waste it and practice effectively. So that's the consistency, consistent practice. Consistent practice is right practice. Perfect practice is no such thing. So you learn as you go. You develop understanding, and wisdom comes through experience. And from application, practice, and experience. So some people practice, but they don't learn. Well, that's a lack of experience. You have to learn from experience. That's what you do. Have to first develop that awareness. And so doing a little and not doing too much helps to create the awareness that you need. So when you practice, you have an objective, means it's initially what you want to achieve. So, for example, if you're taking singing lessons, I think the first thing is you want to learn how to sing in tune. But it's not like take a song and sing it in tune. It's like just take a note, make a sound. Do. See? Do. Okay, do you hear that? Now, what is that? Well, it's a tone. When you sing, you've got to be able to produce a tone. It's not do. See, that's all out of tune because it's not not a tone. It's got to be able to know how to produce a tone. And then you got to figure out what tone is that, which we'll get into in subsequent lessons. Now, these videos are going to be like music lessons, a little bit, a little there. These are for people who are not committed really to lessons with me or working with me just yet. But I want you to get comfortable with me when you start a time with me, even if it's 5 minutes or whatever, a 10-minute consultation. My consultations are initially free, but I do start to mark the time at some point. I do want to teach on a billable hours basis. So once we get started, where I think you can practice the things we're doing together, then we can start working towards a goal, a plan, a goal of how we can organize your time, and I can organize my time, so we can work better together. Better together is better than not separate, being separate and apart in our approach and methods. And so that's why I need your feedback. I need you to tell me what you think, to share with me your interest. Initially, that's what the consultation is, but then I'm not a fixer, I'm an assister. It's assisting you with how you can take care of what you need, your problems, your goals, what you need to achieve your goals for yourself, all right? All healing, self-healing, all producing is self-producing, all recording is just recording and hearing yourself and be able to make your own evaluations of your own performances. And once you're able to be more objective to yourself or know yourself better as a musician, artist, or performer, you'll find that people start to respond to you because now you're really learning how to perform or to show what you know, see? And so you have to develop a persona, I call that, which is a way of presenting your singing or playing or whatever instrument you're learning, but to be able to do it in public and feel as comfortable as you would practice in private, you see. So superstars, celebrities, people who are super successful are very comfortable in front of a camera because they practice in front of the public the way they are in private. They develop that persona. So the word personality, I'll get into that as well, is the two connotations. You have a certain personality. I call it a personality style. You have a certain persona, which is the way you come across to other people. And then you are a certain person, which is the word person means through sound. You're a certain person. Has to do with the way you come across to yourself, how your identity that you have, the way you identify yourself and see yourself is called your identity function. I have a thing called personality typing method, my own type method, which stands for a targeted approach to enhance personality performance. And this is part of my consulting. It's to some extent, I want you to start from just knowing yourself. How do you develop a performance? In other words, how do you put on a facade, a mask? That's another word in French for personality, is your facade. A mask, M-A-S-Q-U-E. A mask is the way you present yourself to the world and the way you're perceived by other people. That would be a mask. So let's say somebody's being very rude to you and you kind of put on a mask where you're not bothered. Well, obviously, you may be bothered, but you're not going to show them they're bothering you because that might only make their rudeness more. They may just become more rude. So you just put on a facade. You act like you don't care, you're nonchalant, and then they'll leave you alone. See what I mean? When I was a kid, I used to be teased mercilessly because I had an accent. My first language was Spanish. didn't speak English until I was in the first grade, but I was born in America, but I grew up in a ethnic culture family that only spoke Spanish, and my parents had been immigrants, and my grandmother and everybody just spoke Spanish in the household. But then I learned that you have to speak English if you want to get along in America, even as a small child. And so I started to speak English, better English, started to learn how to use my voice better to express myself and what I wanted from other people. And then as I became more skilled in how I spoke and communicated, then the kids stopped teasing me. But when I was just talking I didn't know how to put words together. The syntax in Spanish and English are very different. So when I couldn't put the words together, formulate the words into sentences in English, it just sounded kind of funny to people. And so kids would just tease me mercilessly. I mean, mercilessly. And so to overcome that, I really put a lot of my practice. I practiced my English. I practiced my English by speaking English, you see, and I stopped speaking Spanish because it wasn't only except for my parents and my immediate family. It wasn't useful. It wasn't helping me in school and helping with my grades. And so when I started to practice my English as a child, at first my grades weren't very good, but then they improved rapidly because my comprehension also improved with my practice of English, learning how to speak English correctly, not just say words, how to say words without that accent, you see, how to articulate clearly. That's what we're talking about. It's not the accent, but just can you articulate clearly in the way you speak? And so I was a voice teacher before I ever took a voice lesson, because as I learned how to be more articulate with how I communicated with people, and I was able to modulate how I phrased and how I said words so people could understand my meaning and what I was saying, I suddenly started to get more personal power. People started to look up to me and started to find it more compelling to listen to me and what I had to say. And so it's the same with you, or anyone, even whether there's something there that you need to practice in your life that's not just to help you improve, but it will help you achieve your goals. Okay, so that's all for now. This is Monday, the 6th of January, 2026. Goodbye. I hope that we'll call this your first consultation lesson, and we'll have more follow-ups on this lesson so that it'll give you some foundation to kind of understand my consulting practice, and what I'd like to have clients and people I'm interested in teaching, and you may be interested in doing lessons, okay? Eventually, I'll have a subscription service, so you'll be able to just buy some of my videos or watch them, or take private phone lessons or personal in-person lessons with me. All depends. Practice, practice, practice. But consistent practice makes perfect. Right practice is practicing a little at a time, few times a day, until you can schedule your time, your life, in a more effective way that will help you, help me, help you to achieve your goals. Okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.